Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam view class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च श्रीकृष्णा करुणासिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We are discussing from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and we are discussing the beautiful section of Uddhava Gita. So far we have discussed many wonderful things which are described by Krishna, and lastly we are discussing the 13th question which is asked by Uddhava. So Uddhava, he asked that if Vedas, they focus on good and bad qualities of work, so without seeing work in terms of good and bad, how can one achieve liberation? So in the last chapter, 20th chapter, Krishna described in great detail that ultimately the material good and material sin, material piety and material sin, they will not help one to achieve ultimate liberation. So one has to take shelter of Krishna, and only by the process of devotional service one can transcend this material sin and material piety. That was the last thing which Krishna told. And therefore Krishna said that people, the devotees who seriously follow all these methods of achieving me, they ultimately become knowledgeable and attain my supreme abode. So that was the last chapter, 20th chapter. So today we'll be discussing the 21st chapter, entitled Lord Krishna's explanation of the Vedic path. So in this chapter Krishna will describe that the good and bad aspects of all those things which are involved in karma kandi or any ritualistic activity, and ultimately he'll describe about the various things which are mentioned in the karma kand portion of the scriptures, and he will describe how Vedic knowledge is very difficult to comprehend for one who is not devotee of Krishna. So Supreme Lord, he continues the discussion. He says that those who give up my methods, what are the various methods which I have given? Krishna is saying the method of devotional service, bhakti, method of jnana, method of nishkam karma yoga, and instead they cultivate insignificant sense gratification. So those who give up all these processes of bhakti, jnana, nishkam karma yoga, and they are engaging in the process of karma kand, that is the process of insignificant sense gratification. What is their destination? Because their senses are completely uncontrolled, so they wander in the cycle of birth and death. So in this section now Krishna is criticizing sakam karma yoga. Sakam karma yoga means I am doing something but I want the results also. This is verily condemned by Krishna in this section. So then Krishna says, Swe swe adhikare ya nishtha sa gunah parikirtitah viparayastu doshasyat ubhayor esha nishchayah. He says, one attains piety if he is steady in one's own position, and one becomes impious when he is deviating from one's position. So now this is a very interesting verse which Krishna is speaking. One who is steady in his position, uh, that is piety, that is actual piety. And if somebody is deviating from his position, that is sin. Viparya tu doshah syad. Viparya means one who is not following the prescribed duty, he is following a sinful life. So basically, this section is the explanation of one of the verses from Bhagavad Gita. Shreyan swadharmo vigunah pardharvat sanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreya pardharmo bhayavaha. So basically, Krishna is now elaborating on this concept that one should be very much fixed up in his own dharma and not artificially try to follow somebody else's dharma. So Krishna says, till the time one is attached to the material body and sense gratification, he should not artificially give them up. One should not artificially give the activities of karma yoga if he is still attached to sense gratification. In the same way, the purport describes that a spiritual neophyte, just like many of us, we have started coming to Krishna consciousness and we are trying to develop taste for Krishna, for name, form, pastimes of Krishna. Although Krishna's pastimes are all sweet, all attractive, all beautiful, enchanting, but because we have our conditionings, our tongue is covered with our mind is covered with the disease of avidya. Just like when the tongue is covered with the jaundice, cannot taste even the sweet sugarcane juice. So that is our position. So in a neophyte situation, we should not artificially come to the level of pure devotional service. We should not imitate pure devotees. That is called pure devotee syndrome. Artificially, we start imitating pure devotees. One should not imitate pure devotees just like the Goswamis. Throughout the day, they were doing chanting and hearing. One of the devotees in the initial days, he went to Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, I want to follow this, Siddha Pranali. I don't want to do any service here. I want to just chant and remember the pastimes of Krishna. I want to go to Radha Kund. Prabhupada said, you are not qualified for that. Please stay here, purify yourself, and then if Krishna reveals, then you can go. He said, no, Prabhupada, I want some higher rasa. I want the higher ecstasies. So, although Prabhupada, he didn't tell him, but still he left. And he was there on Radhakund for 6 months and then he was not to be seen. Then after a year or so, one devotee, he found that this person who was there in Radhakund, he found him in America in one of the petrol gas stations. And he asked, oh, you are in Radhakund, what are you doing here? He said, no, I have done my lifetime of chanting in 6 months. So that is how Krishna is very strongly telling one should be very steady in one's own position. Follow the principles of sadhana bhakti very nicely. What is sadhana bhakti? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana bhita nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam riddhi sadhyata. When we are executing the principles of devotion with our senses, engaging our senses under the instructions of spiritual master, then the Nitya Siddha, the pure love of God, will appear in the heart automatically. One should not artificially try to become a sahajiya and exhibit the symptoms of ecstasy. One time, one devotee, he asked, one of the Prabhupada disciples, he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, there are some people who are saying that you have not given us the highest. And they are thinking, do we have to follow something else to attain the highest perfection? Because sadhana bhakti will take us only to Vaikuntha, and by bhav bhakti and prem bhakti we will go to Goloka. So some devotees are thinking that you have not given us the highest. And then he said, or Prabhupada, another thought process is, if we keep on practicing the rules and regulations which are mentioned in the scriptures, then in due course of time, Krishna will reveal from the heart what is our actual position. Prabhupada said, yes, that is the right way. If we keep on doing the principles of, practicing the principles of sadhana, bhakti, shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu, purify our heart. And if Krishna desires, Krishna will reveal our nature, he will reveal our form. But we should not artificially try to imitate some pure devotees. That will be a sahajiya mentality. So that is what is described. So Chakravarti Thakur gives an elaborate description of this verse. He says, Uddhava is saying that I have asked you about good and bad quality, what is good quality and what is bad quality. And you have answered that uh, to see fault, it is a fault to see good and bad in the devotees, and it is a good quality to neglect, you know, anything good or bad. One should not see, oh, this devotee has some good quality or bad quality, we should not talk about it. So he says, I have one doubt. So Krishna, Uddhava is saying that, if somebody has faith in your topics, now it is a little bit of technical but very interesting discussion. Uddhava is saying that if suppose somebody has faith in your topics and uh, but because of some conditionings, because of some anarthas, he falls down from the process of devotional service and he uh, starts following karma and jnana. So my question is seeing fault in his bhakti bad? Because he is not following the principles of devotion, he fell down, now he is following karma and jnana. So he's saying, is seeing fault in that devotee's bhakti bad and not seeing is good? So this is one question he asks. Second question, he says, another thing is, if somebody is a karmi or a jnani and he is following his karma and a jnana, but because he does not have faith in bhakti, but when he sees that a devotee of the Lord, he is excelling him, he is going much ahead in spiritual advancement. So this karmi and jnani, what he does, although he does not have faith in the process of bhakti, but by seeing the advancement of a devotee, he starts imitating this devotee. He begins worshipping Lord, he begins practicing devotional service, and he is announced as a devotee also. So now the second question is, should one see good and bad qualities in that impostor, a cheater? Because he does not have sentiments, but he wants to excel just because he's seeing the advancement of a devotee. So, so Chakravarti Thakur is describing all this inner discussion which is going on. So Uddhava, Krishna, when he understands this thought process of Uddhava, and he says, please hear about the good nature, please hear about the nature of good qualities and the bad qualities. He says, if somebody is jnani, he is qualified for jnana. If somebody is a karmi, he is qualified for karma. Actually, jnana and karma, they depend on bhakti yoga, but bhakti is independent. Bhakti does not have to depend on anything. So therefore, it is understood that although jnanis and karmis, they get their results by the process of devotional service only, but because they don't have much faith in the process of bhakti, they should continue following the principles of jnana or karma. But then he says, if bhakta, he gives up bhakti and follows karma and jnana, that is a fault. And if a jnani gives up jnana, karmi gives up karma and starts imitating the practices of devotional service, that is a fault. So basically, Krishna is just telling, be situated wherever you are. Unless you are really genuinely following some path, don't try to change your path. If you are following, don't change your path. If you are a devotee, don't get attracted to karma and jnana. If you are a jnani, don't get attracted to karma and bhakti. Of course, a jnani can come to the process of devotional service by association of devotees. But one should not artificially imitate the activities of a pure devotee. So therefore, Krishna says, actually this explanation of good and bad is immense. So he says, I'll describe to you. Please listen. So in the third verse, he again says, O sinless Uddhava, in order to understand what is proper and what is improper, one must evaluate the object based on its particular category. So we should not take things out of context and start judging. For example, he says three things. If you want to analyze religious principles, just see in terms of piety and impiety, whether see in things of purity and impurity. This dharma will make me pure or impure. Then he says, if you want to know what is good and bad in terms of ordinary dealings, we have to see the result. If we are doing something and we are getting the right results, that means this is good. If we are not getting the right results, that means it is bad. And if and then he says, if one is inquiring about the physical survival, then one should see what is auspicious and what is inauspicious. So Krishna will elaborate all this. This may look little confusing, but Krishna will elaborate in great detail what is auspicious, what is inauspicious, what is good, what is bad, what is pure, what is impure. He says, actually, I have revealed this way of life for those who are bearing the burden of mundane religious principles. So this is again a very interesting verse. So Krishna is saying in the fourth verse that, the ordinary religious principles, they are a great burden. A karmi has to do so many things to get the result. That's what the sages of Naimisharanya, they ask Sut Goswami. Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyani vibhagashah atah sadhvatra yatsaram samudhratya manishaya. So they are saying, they are requesting Sut Goswami, O great sage, there are unlimited types of ritualistic activities which are mentioned in the scriptures. Please take out the essence of all those and tell us. So therefore, Krishna is saying, these people who are practicing religious principles, karmis, they are carrying a great burden. But a devotee, he does not have to carry the great burden of all these karmic activities. Bhakti is joyful. Parama karuna pahu duijana nitai gaur chandra sabha avatar sara shiromani keval ananda kanda. Bhakti is susukham kartum avyayam. Bhakti is all blissful process. There is no burden. One time one devotee, one person asked, Swamiji, what do you do for recreation? Whole day you all are doing hearing, chanting, and dance and all these activities. What do you do for recreation? Prabhupada said, our whole life is recreation only. This is all wonderful process. One person asked Swamiji, what will you get by chanting Hare Krishna? Prabhupada said, chanting more. So in bhakti, the path and the means are the goal and the path is the same. The means and the ends, they are same. So therefore, bhakti is susukham kartum avyayam. Because following karma kand is very troublesome. So many rituals one has to do, and if somebody commits a mistake, then he becomes sinful. in a process of jnana, intense tapasya, in process of ashtanga, and in process of jnana, so many things one has to study. Speculation, philosophical understanding. In ashtanga, there is intense tapasya, but bhakti is all joyful process. So Krishna says, O Uddhava, all jivas from Brahma down to an ant, all are made up of same five elements. Same five elements are there in all the bodies. Different species of life are there. There are 84 lakh species of life. But all these species have the same five elements in different proportions. Why do I have made all these different species of life? Krishna says, because different species of life, different living entities have different natures. They are in different modes of material nature. And to give them, to facilitate their desires, Vedas, they distinguish between all these various species of life, and based on them, Vedas, they describe Varnashram for everybody. So basically Vedas, they describe Varnashram to facilitate the desires of all the living entities. But ultimate purpose of all the Vedas is वर्णाश्रम आचारवता पुरुषेण परपुमान विष्णुराराध्यते पंथ न अन्यत तत्तोष कारणम. The ultimate essence of all the varnashram system is to serve Krishna. And in very interesting example, it is described in the purport. Why the Vedas, they speak in ways which ordinary materialistic people can relate with. If you want sense gratification, okay, you can enjoy in this world. Why all these words are mentioned in the scriptures? One very wonderful example is given. Just like a doctor who is dealing with a crazy man, a person who is crazy. And this crazy person, he may be speaking all nonsense which does not make any sense. But this doctor, because his ultimate purpose is he wants to treat that crazy man, he will speak to him in a very sympathetic way, and he'll very attentively listen to all the things which this crazy person is saying, although nothing of that is correct. He is completely in the false conception, but the main purpose of the doctor is, I have to treat this person. Similarly, the Vedas, they engage living entities in various types of illusory identifications, but the ultimate purpose is to come close to Krishna. So we'll see as we go ahead in this chapter, and of course in the next chapter tomorrow also we'll see that the Vedas, they are, there is no confusion. People say, oh, Vedas, they are meant for dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Vedas, they are meant for sense gratification. Mostly the Vedas are discussing dharma, artha, kama. Krishna will describe in this chapter itself why the Vedas are speaking in this way. So now Krishna describes the standard of purity and purification. So he says, in order to restrict materialistic activities, niyam artham, the word uses niyam artham. Niyam artham means I want to restrict the materialistic activities. That is the ultimate purpose of the scriptures. Vedas are not promoting sense gratification. Ultimate purpose of the Vedas is to restrict sense gratification. So Krishna is saying, in order to restrict the materialistic activities, I have established that which is proper and improper among all the subjects, all the things, among the objects, among the lands, and in the times. So Desh Kaladi Bhavanam, various objects, various times, and the land, they are pure and impure, according to the various conditions. So Krishna is now going to describe in great detail what is purity, What are the standards of purity and what is the process of purification? So these regulations, they are not applying, they are applicable not only to the bodies, but also to the place, also to the result and the causes, based on the place and the time. So because conditioned souls, they are just interested in prayers. Prayers means immediate sense gratification. We are short sighted many times. We don't see the ultimate result. The Shreyas means the ultimate good. Prayers means short term good. It's like a child. Child is interested in playing whole day. That is his sense gratification. Because child cannot see, if he will not study, then he will suffer in the future. So conditioned souls, all of us, because we have become conditioned since millions of lifetimes, ultimate goal is not visible many times. But by spiritual intelligence, one can understand what is good, what is bad, what is Shreyas and what is Preyas. So first, in 8 verses, Krishna is describing the pure and impure objects. So in the 8th verse, Krishna describes the contaminated lands. Which land is called, considered to be contaminated? The land which is bereft of antelopes, bereft of brahmanas, bereft of place, and there are various places like Kikata. Kikata means, the translation describes the place Gaya, the province of Gaya, because it is described that in earlier times there were no devotees in Gaya. And that's why the place was considered to be impure. The place where no purificatory ceremonies are happening, the place where meat is eaten, and the barren land. All these are contaminated lands. And then what about time? Time is also pure and impure. So it's described, appropriate time is ascertained by its nature and achievement of suitable paraphernalia. If you can achieve something, that time is good. If you are not able to achieve something, that time is bad. So what is inappropriate time? That time which impedes you to perform your prescribed duty, that is inappropriate time. And then after describing, he describes the impurity of objects. He says an object's purity or impurity is established by 5 things. Application of other object. And he gives an example. If there are objects like plates, they are purified by water. Other object is applied and they become impure by contact with impure substance like urine and other impure items. Secondly, object is purified by words also. When a great saintly personality or a brahmana vibrates pure sound vibration mantra, then the object becomes purified. Objects, they are purified by rituals also. For example, sprinkling water, pure water. He says this is how flowers are purified before offering to Krishna, offering to the Lord. They have to be purified by sprinkling, by doing achman. Then he says by the effects of time also the objects are purified. Just like if somebody wants to use the rainwater is impure for first 10 days. After that, it is considered to be pure. And then, according to the relative magnitude, also an object is considered to be pure or impure. For example, ocean never becomes contaminated because it is a huge body of water. But if there is a small lake, then it can become contaminated very easily. And then what is the effect of impure objects? He says the impure things affect a person depending on 3 things. Depending on the person's strength or weakness. So now this is very interesting. He says, Krishna says that if the food is spoiled, then it is considered to be impure for a person who is having strength. But this is pure for that person who does not have strength. He is already weak. For example, during the solar eclipse, the food which is prepared during the solar eclipse is considered to be contaminated. But if somebody is already so very weak, physically weak, if he will not eat, he will suffer more. So for a physically weak person, he may eat, because that time the food is not considered impure for him. So this is very interesting, that scriptures, they are always contextual. And then he says, the effects of impure objects is also depending on the intelligence. For example, a person who is ordinary, he is a foolish person. He generally considers, generally after son takes birth or child takes birth, 10 days following childbirth is considered to be impure. And but people who are unintelligent, they think this is most auspicious time. So depending on the knowledge, a object is considered to be pure or impure. Then it is described in some explanation is given. See, generally, if you are doing something wrong, you will get the reaction. And ignorance is no escape for the, reaction, from the reaction. But it is a common fact that if somebody is ignorant of the law, he is punished less. If a government servant is doing some criminal activity, if a police is doing a criminal activity, he is punished much more, because he knows the rules and regulations. But an ignorant person, by mistake, if he does something sinful, he is not punished so much. So similarly, if a knowledgeable person, he does not follow that, okay, 10 days after childbirth is considered inauspicious, he will become impure. But if an ignorant person does that, he will also suffer, but not so much. That's how impurity of object depends on the intelligence also. Then impurity of the object depends on the wealth also. For example, if there is a beggar, a poor personality, and he gets a torn piece of cloth, for him that piece of cloth should be considered pure. But if somebody is wealthy person, he should not wear torn cloth, because that is considered to be impure. So therefore, after this, Krishna says that those objects and words which create sin, they are according to the time and place and physical condition. It is not an absolute thing. So we have to always understand scriptures, they are not telling, okay, if you do this, you are thoroughly condemned. They are always contextual. How to understand the context? We have to learn from the learned people, the great devotees of the Lord. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that that means the rule becomes effective in a safe place. If a place is safe, all these rules are effective. You should not eat after solar eclipse, you should not eat when you should not go around after the 10 days of childbirth. When the things are safe, then all these things are effective. But if a place is not safe, for example, if there is some thief who is about to steal, then you should not consider all this. If somebody is not healthy, sick, then he should not consider all this. But if somebody is youthful, then he should be very much careful. And one other interesting observation, he says that children, till the time they have not reached 14 years of age, they don't know what is good, what is bad. So if they do something wrong, they are not punished so much. And also the old people, and that's what Prabhupada would say many times, that I can say in such a rough way, oh, all these scientists are fools and rascals, but you cannot say that because nobody takes uh, old person and children seriously. Then Krishna describes about the purification of objects. So in the 12th verse, it says various objects such as grains, wooden utensils, things which are made up of bone, threads, liquids, objects, and skin and earthly objects, they are all purified by time. They are purified by wind. They are purified by fire, by earth, by water, either separately or in combination. There is a very similar verse which comes in the 10th canto also. कालेन स्नान शौचाभ्याम संस्कारैस्तपसेज्जया शुद्ध्यन्ति दाने संतुष्ट्या द्रव्याणि आत्मात्म विद्यया. So this verse says how various objects become purified. Kalen, in due course of time, all the immovable objects like trees and the mountains, they get purified with time. Snana shauchabhyam, the body becomes purified by taking bath. Samskar, the birth becomes purified by purificatory ceremonies like Garbhadan Samskar and Jata Samskar, Namkaran Samskar and all that. Samskar, tapasa, the body, the elements within the body, they are purified by austerity, tapasya. Ijjaya, various elements, all the elements around, they are purified by offering to the Lord. Shuddhanti dane, the wealth becomes purified by charity. Santushtya, mind becomes purified by satisfaction. And Atma gets purified by Atma Vidyaya. The soul gets purified by spiritual knowledge. So therefore the metals are purified by earth, fire or water. So that is what is described. And Chakravarti Thakur makes a very interesting point there. Actually, woolen cloth, it is purified just by air. And that's why woolen cloth is not considered to be contaminated because it is purified just by air alone. And then he says there are various types of purifying agents. How to understand, okay, this thing can act as a purifying agent. If the purifying agent can remove the bad odor and if it makes the object resume to its original nature, that means that thing can be used as purifying agent. And then he says how to become purified personally. He says by bathing, by charity, by austerity, by with age, avastha, snana, dana, tapo, avastha, virya, samskara karma bhi, mat smritya chatmana shaucham, shuddha karma chared vijaha. How to become purified personally? By taking bath, by doing charity, austerity, with age. So with age, how to understand with age one gets purified? Generally, when boys and girls are young, they are kept pure by innocence because young boys and girls, they are innocent, they are pure by their youthful innocence. But when person grows up, becomes adult, then they have to be purified by knowledge, education and engagement. Proper spiritual engagement purifies a personality. So these are the various ways the body can get purified: by rituals, by prescribed duties of varnashram, and one very important word Krishna uses there, mat smritya, by remembrance of me. This is most important, mat smritya. Krishna says body becomes purified by my remembrance. As the famous verse we have heard, apavitra pavitro va sarvavastham gatopiya yasmaret pundarikaksham sabbahayabhyantara shuchihi. Whether pure or impure, in whatever situation of life we may be, if we remember the lotus-eyed Krishna, we become purified. How different things are purified? A mantra, if it is chanted with proper knowledge and heard from the mouth of a guru, Knowledge purifies a mantra. If we are chanting some mantras, that is okay. But if we are chanting mantras, if we are chanting prayers with proper knowledge of the meaning, then the mantra is potent. And then how a work is purified? By offering to me, Krishna says. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhoshi, dadasi, yat tapashyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. By offering work, Krishna says the work becomes purified. By proper time, place, substance, if we take all these things under consideration, a person becomes religious. So then after describing, he says actually, the consideration of sin and piety, it is all circumstantial. You cannot say this is absolute sin, this is absolute piety. For example, and he says, Krishna says, in special cases, actually piety becomes sin and sin becomes piety. And Chakravarti Thakur gives two examples. Generally, one should not accumulate things. Hoarding is a bad quality. As Prabhupada speaks in Nectar of Instruction, that is the nature of a human. A bird will come if there is a bag of grain lying in the middle of the street. Birds will come, take few grains and go away. A man will come, take away the entire bag. Hoarding is a bad mentality. But if there is a calamity, if there is a famine, then this hoarding is good. Another example, if somebody is irresponsible, is not taking care of the family, that is a fault. If he gives up the family out of irresponsibility, that is a fault. But if somebody is taking to the renounced order of life, then that is not fault, that is most pious thing. That is the religious principle. For example, if neighbor's house is on fire, and if you cut a hole in the roof of that neighbor and help him to escape, that person will be considered most heroic. But if the same person does it in a normal situation, he'll be considered sinful, he'll be punished for that. So therefore, the consideration of sin and piety, this is all circumstantial. And therefore, Krishna says the same activities that would degrade an elevated person may be considered good for those who are already fallen. Now, this is also very interesting, because Krishna says actually because he is already fallen, wo aur kya girega? And he gives an example. If a sannyasi associates with women, that is most sinful. But for a householder, for a grihastha, if he enjoys with wife during the fertile period, that is considered pious. Another example he gives. If a drunkard, if a brahmana drinks wine, that is abominable, that is sinful. But if a shudra who is drinking every day, he controls and moderates his drinking, he'll be considered as self-controlled. So that's what piety and sin, they are material considerations. They are all relative. So then after describing this, Krishna says actually, now I'll describe to you about the karma kanda portion. Now this is a very, very similar verse again which comes in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is describing the path of liberation and the path of fall down. He says in the 18th verse, Yato yato nivarteta vimuccheta tatastataha esha dharmo nrinam shema shoka moha bhayapaha. He says by refraining from sinful activity, one becomes freed from all the entanglements, and by such refraining, one becomes very intelligent, religious, and auspicious. This drives away shoka, moha, and bhaya. The lamentation, suffering, and fear, illusion. What is the path of fall down? He says a person, if he is addicted to sense gratification, then he becomes attached to it. And because of this attachment, lust develops and he wants to acquire that object. But if he cannot, he quarrels, he becomes angry, and then he is pushed down into the lowest levels of ignorance, darkness of ignorance. And in that consciousness, he loses his intelligence and he loses everything, and it deviates from purpose of life, becomes dull, like a dead man. Now, similar verse, second chapter comes, Bhagavad Gita, 62nd and 63rd verse. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा संगस्तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामा कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. So the same thing Krishna is again quoting here. The actual goal of human form of life is not sense gratification but to attain Krishna, attain self realization. But a lusty person, a proud person, he will not be attracted to the process of self realization, and ultimately he will glide down to the lowest levels of material existence. And then Krishna says, because of absorption in sense gratification, one cannot become humble. One does not recognize his actual position, does not become humble, and he lives in ignorance just like a tree, which has no purpose, just standing there, as Bhagavatam second canto also describes. Tarvah kimna jivanti bhastra kimna swashanti uta na khadanti na mehanti kim grame pashavo pare. Same thing Krishna is saying here in the 22nd verse also. What is the use of living like a tree? What is the use of breathing? Because bellows of blacksmith also breathe. And another point which is described, that trees, they can't defend when they are cut. If a person is following a sinful life of sense gratification, he cannot avoid being cut by the laws of material nature. They cannot defend. Uddhava may be thinking, how can one fall from one's interest from hearing results like Swarga in the Vedas? How can one fall? Because the Vedas, they describe that if you go to Swarga, you will enjoy. There are chances that people will fall down for sense gratification. Now, very interesting. In the next section, from 23rd to 26 verses, Krishna is describing very clearly that Vedas, they are not cheating people. Krishna says, what is the purpose of the fruitive rewards of the Vedas? Krishna gives an example. Just like a father, his main goal is he wants to give his child a medicine. Medicine is very bitter. So what father tells? Father, he promises a candy. He says, if you drink this neem juice, I'll give you this candy. If you take this medicine which is bitter, I'll give you this candy. When the scriptures, they promise sense gratification, that is like father giving candy to the child. The goal is not to eat the sweet candy. The goal is to get treated by the medicine. So therefore, the results which are described in the scriptures, by following various karmas, they are actually not beneficial. Just like it comes in the 4th canto, Narad Muni is telling to Prachina Barhi. He says, O king, what benefit will you get by doing all these karma kandi activities? Because it is not possible to destroy suffering. And you cannot attain liberation by all these karma kandi activities. So therefore, the scriptures are not promoting sense gratification. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that, one hears that, oh, the results of karma are eternal and we can enjoy with apsaras for a long time. Actually, this is all enticement. This is just to attract people to follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures. Because by following the rules and regulations of the scriptures, over a period of time, people, they get purified of their sinful enjoying mentality and surrender to Krishna. Ultimately, they come to the level of devotional service. Uddhava is thinking, but in Karma Kand, we never hear about liberation. Karma Kand is all about sense gratification. Where it is mentioned that, karma is meant for liberation? Nowhere it is mentioned like that. So Krishna, understanding this thought process of Uddhava, he thinks, you know, simply by material birth, a human being becomes attached to sense gratification. And he just engages in sense gratification. He has long duration of life. He has all the sexual act potency working very nicely. All this defeats the actual interest of a human. Ignorant people, they are not realizing their self interest, and they are going to hell. Why would the Vedas mislead people to go to hell? Vedas are not meant for misleading people towards sense gratification. So therefore, as a devotee, we should never ever blaspheme the Vedic scriptures. That is one of the offense, right? Because as devotees, what it means to blaspheme, not to blaspheme Vedic scriptures. As a devotee, we will never blaspheme Bhagavatam. We will never blaspheme Bhagavad Gita. We will never blaspheme the Bhakti scriptures. But we can criticize the Vedic scriptures. So Vedic scriptures are all promoting sense gratification, jugupsitam, and we may quote lots of verses also. We have to understand Bhagavatam deals at a very high platform. In the beginning only, Bhagavatam rejects all types of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And therefore, all the statements which are coming in Bhagavatam, they are for people who are endeavoring for loving devotional service. But Krishna is such a loving father, he realizes that not everybody will take to Krishna consciousness. And he wants everybody to, advance slowly. So that is the purpose of the Vedas. If we are criticizing Vedas, I think we discussed the other day also, yesterday also. Anybody who rejects the smritis and shrutis, he cannot be considered to be a Vaishnava. So therefore, the Vedas, Krishna is himself saying, Vedas, they never, tell people, mislead people. Those people who submissively follow the Vedas, they ultimately come to the understanding that Vedesha sarvair aham eva vedyaha. Because material life is full of anxiety, full of frustration, lamentation, suffering. Why would Vedas promote this material life? Because the scriptures are ultimately meant for the highest welfare of living entities, that is, loving Krishna. So Vedas, they ultimately tell one to serve Krishna. But then Krishna says, Uddhava may think, if you are saying Vedas will never misdirect, then why Mimamsakas? Why people who are on the path of karma kand, they say that attaining Swarga is the highest goal? Krishna says in the 26th verse, persons who have perverted intelligence, they are attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas. So this word flowery we have heard many times, right? The flowery words of the Vedas. It has come in Bhagavad Gita also. Yamimam pushpitam vacha pravadantya vaipashchitah ved vadarata partha na anyad astiti vadinah. People who are ved vadarata, who are materialistic followers of the Vedas, they are attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas. So actually Krishna says, those who know the actual meaning of the Vedas, they will never speak like that. They will never tell the Vedas are promoting heaven. Because interesting explanation Chakravarti Thakur gives. He says that actually, all these people, they are attracted to the flowers. They are not getting the fruit. And flowers may look very beautiful, but you cannot satisfy your hunger with that. So all these words of the Vedas, they are like the flowers. They are not the fruit. But, Those words which are telling that, okay, these are, you'll go to heaven, they are not the ultimate purpose. That is just like a candy. Scriptures, they are just interested in, bringing one close to God. So many times the fruit, the results which are mentioned in the scriptures, they are flowers, not the fruits. And people who are materialistic, they mistake flowers for the fruits. Nobody can be satisfied with the flower. Oh, flower may look attractive, but you cannot be, you cannot, pacify the hunger. So these people, they do not know the goal of the Vedas. And therefore, Krishna says, sense gratifiers, they misunderstand karma kand. Kamina kripana lubdha pushpeshu falabuddhaya agni mugdha dhumatanta swamlokam navadanti cha vidantite. He says, those people who are full of lust, anger, and greed, they are always full of anxiety. And because of that, they don't understand the Paramatma who is seated within their own heart. And because of that, they even resort to animal killing, slaughter, all types of violence. They are like Agni Mugdha. Agni Mugdha means people who are doing sacrifices. They are bewildered sometimes because of the smoke which comes out of the fire sacrifice. Similarly, people who are following this karma kand section, they don't have clear understanding of the soul. They are bewildered by all these promises of sense gratification, which is not the ultimate purpose. That is just to bring a person close to spiritual life. And then he says, the sense gratifiers, their eyes are completely covered by the fog of ignorance. Therefore, they do not know me. I am seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma, Antaryami. So therefore, they do not know me. And the result is they even resort to animal slaughter. And ultimately, they give up the ultimate wealth which is available for them. Just like a foolish businessman, he may keep on planning and he may destroy his whatever wealth he has. Similarly, foolish person, he keeps dreaming for the heavenly pleasure and he destroys this human form of life. That human form in which one can attain the highest perfection, he uses it for sense gratification which is available in the heaven. Scriptures there again and again, they focus on how this human form is so very important. Therefore, Krishna says, these people, they worship devatas. They are in different modes. They worship devatas, but worship of devatas is not proper. That's what Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says. Yepyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kaunteya yajante avidhi purvakam. Krishna is saying there that those people who worship devatas, they are actually worshipping me, but in a wrong way. What is wrong? They don't understand, they don't accept me to be the Bhokta and Ishvara. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha na tu mam abhijananti. They do not accept me as Bhokta, the enjoyer and the supreme controller. So therefore Krishna is saying these people, they worship devatas according to the modes and they do not worship me properly. What is the mentality of such sense gratifiers? Krishna says, these sense gratifiers, they think we'll go to heaven, enjoy there, and then after exhausting our past credits, we'll come back, take birth in the aristocratic family and keep enjoying. Such proud persons, they are never attracted to topics about me. They are never attracted to Krishna Katha. And therefore Krishna says, actually, the Vedic knowledge is so very difficult to comprehend because Krishna says, I like indirect speech. This is very interesting. Krishna says, Veda Brahmatma Vishaya Sri Kanda Vishaya Ime Parokshavada Rishayaha Paroksha Mama cha priyam. He says, I like indirect speech. The Vedas, they are discussing about Karma Kand, Brahma Kand, and Devata Kand. And Krishna says, all these Vedas, they deal with some esoteric means. I like that because I like something to be told indirectly. That is how intelligent people they like. They don't want to be told some feedback directly. If somebody is doing something wrong, you should tell them in an indirect way. Just like we know the story of Narad Muni and Prachina Bari. Prachina Bari was such a great king. So Narad Muni did not criticize, did not chastise Prachina Bari. He told a wonderful allegorical story of Puranjan, and Prachina Bari understood everything. So therefore, Krishna says, I like indirect speech. He says, uh, actually, since there is no way for people to accept Vedas, the people, the Vedas, they describe all this heavenly pleasure and all the sense gratification just to attract them. That is the only purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of Vedas is not to, bring one to sense gratification. May say, but there are philosophers like Gemini and others. They say the same thing that you have to go to heaven and enjoy. Krishna says, no, that is not so. They do not know the ultimate truth. That's why they are telling like that. Actually, it is so very difficult to comprehend the scriptures. Now Krishna is himself saying, Shabda Brahma Sudurbodham Pranendriya Manomayam Anantaparam Gambiram Durvigahyam Samudravat. Just like one cannot understand the depth of ocean, Vedic knowledge is unfathomable. Sudurbodham. It is very, very difficult to understand by one's own intelligence. Very difficult. And therefore, Krishna says actually, Chakravarti Thakur writes that this Vedic sound, which is coming from the mouth of a realized soul, that is just a 1/4 from a Brahmana. Vedic sound is divided into 4 phases. Some technical description Chakravarti Thakur gives. Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari. Vaikhari, he says, Vaikhari is the manifest stage of sound. There are 3 stages of sound which are not visible for the material perception because they are dealing with the subtle prana. So therefore Krishna says, sound, Vedic sound is so very difficult to understand. How does such sound manifest for the living entities? Krishna says, I personally established the Vedic sound vibration. I am the source of this Vedic sound vibration, and it is perceived subtly, just like he gives the example, just like the single strand of fiber on the lotus. And then Krishna says, actually, I am the origin of Vedas. Just like the spider brings forth from his heart and spins the web. The fiber comes from the heart of spider and emits from the mouth, and spider makes the web. Similarly, Krishna says, this sound vibration is coming from my heart, and when it comes out of my mouth, it becomes perceivable. But there are many levels which are not perceivable by ordinary people. There are various Vedic meters, various meters in which the Vedic mantras are sung. Gayatri, Anushtupa, Bhagavad Gita is in Anushtup Chanda. Meters means Chanda. And then Krishna says, actually in the entire world, no one but me actually knows the actual import of Vedas. Only Krishna knows the actual confidential understanding of Vedas. These people, they do not know what is the purpose of Karma Kanda, what is the purpose of Jnana Kanda, what is the purpose of Upasana Kanda, because all this is very, very confidential. It is very difficult to know the actual nature of the Vedas. What is to be done by following these Vedas? Uh, what do the Vedas order the Jivas to do? What to do? What not to do? All these are very, very difficult to understand. Then who can understand? He says, only devotee can understand by the mercy of the Lord. Mam vidhatte abhidhatte mam vikalpayopyohyate tvaham etavan sarvedartha shabda asthaya mam vidam maya matramanudhyante pratishidhya prasidati. So Krishna is saying in this last verse, he says, what is the actual substance and what is the goal of the Vedas? He says, I am the ritualistic sacrifice which is enjoined by the scriptures. Mam vidhatte, I am the sacrifice mentioned in the scriptures. Abhidhatte mam, I am the worshipable deity which is mentioned in the scriptures. Vikalpaya, it is I who is presented by various philosophical theories. And it is I who alone is refuted by the philosophical analysis. When people, they use philosophical analysis, actually what they are doing, they are actually refuting my existence only. Shabda, the transcendental sound vibration, is actually describing my position, establishing me as the supreme. And the Vedas, they are elaborately analyzing all material duality as nothing but my illusory potency. So whatever you are seeing in this world, that is all my illusory potency. So therefore, ultimately, Krishna is saying, I am the ultimate basis of everything in this material world. Only by the mercy of devotees one can understand Krishna, because all the Vedic scriptures, they are prescribing me. And Chakravarti Thakur writes that I am different from devotional service. So actually all the Vedas, they are prescribing devotional service. So that is the final goal of sacrifice. So this is the end of this 21st chapter. So we'll end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If somebody has any questions, okay, there is one question. So Gyan means philosophical speculation. There are three types of Gyana. Atma Gyan, Ishwar Gyan and Keval Gyan. Atma Gyan means knowledge of the soul. Ishwar Gyan means knowledge of the Supreme Lord. And Keval Gyan means knowledge of impersonal Brahman. So a Gyani, he progresses from understanding I am not this body, I am soul. And then he has darshan of Paramatma in his heart. Then he has two options. Either become attached to that Paramatma and practice devotional service, develop Ishwar Gyan, or continue developing the Kevala Gyan, the desire of merging in the Brahman. So that is a Gyani, that the person wants to develop knowledge. So this is the progression of the Gyani. Okay. So any other questions anybody has? So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.